This is a special podcast presentation from 700WLW.com. This is Doc Thompson On Demand.
I'm Darryl Parks, 6 after 11 o'clock. Doc Thompson off this week. I'll be filling in all week long, also next Monday. This weekend is probably the biggest sports weekend in the tri-state area. You know, as far as the number of people coming into the area and the crowds that are expected, I can't think of a bigger sports weekend. And Ken Brew from News 5 joins me, and also Sunday Morning Sports Talk here on the Big One. Ken, how are you?
DP, it's always great to be with you. You know that.
Ken, I requested your presence because I didn't want the delusional commentary of one Segman Dennison about this weekend.
I know.
When it comes to this, because he's delusional about Dale Earnhardt. You have the owner of the track,
yes,
Burton Smith, saying that that Dale Earnhardt Jr., and I know what he's doing, he's just trying to placate the fans. But, when was the last time Dale Earnhardt Jr. won more than one race in a season?
Well, he's actually run out of gas more in the last 50 races than he has won. So I would not put my money on Dale Jr. for this race. But if Bruton Smith wants to do it, hey, listen, man, he's worth $4 billion. Go for it.
Well, he won 6 races in 2004, and since then he has won 3.
Right, and he ran out of gas in Kansas, which is like the worst state to run out of gas in. And I think that was like a month ago.
Well, I fancy myself, and I joke about NASCAR a lot on my show, but I fancy myself as not an expert, but I know a little bit about race car driving. I've done it a couple of times.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Oh. In fact, I've driven at Sparta.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's not on the resume.
You've never done that?
Actually, I rode next to someone who did it. I was in the front seat of a Taurus with Benny Parsons.
No. You got to drive the car yourself.
Well, here's the thing, okay? I went to the Richard Petty driving experience down there, and I got all dressed up in a fire suit, and then they said it's not an automatic transmission, it's manual.
Not you too.
Well, so hang on a second. So I actually had a guy sitting next to me that actually shifted while I drove around the track.
You're like the Segman. You can't drive a standard.
I can't. Never learned.
Man.
Never learned.
Yeah, I have in fact, my Mustang's a standard transmission.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
See, that's not on the resume. You got to get that on the resume.
No,
that's big.
That's one of those things I like. I like to drive fast. But as the father of Ricky Bobby so aptly put in that movie, you're either first or you're last, and this is where Segman is delusional. He thinks that Dale Earnhardt's doing a good job when he comes in 19th like he did last weekend.
We may have a problem with the Segman this weekend because I think he could be like by Friday night at like 9 o'clock, he could just be completely in a coma over this thing.
Have you seen him recently in the last week?
Yeah.
Did you see the hairstyle he has?
Yes, it's beyond belief.
You know where my office is in Siberia in the building now?
Yeah,
they got me. They have me exiled.
Right.
And since I'm no longer PD,
right.
They
just look for the throne. That's where you are, right?
No, believe me, no, it's Siberia. The Segman actually ventured down a couple of days ago, and I was looking at him, and I'm like, what's with the hairdo?
Yeah.
And he's all set for the hot women that follow NASCAR.
Yeah, I think and I really and truly think the final piece to that puzzle will be the fire suit that he puts on to get down and cover this thing at 100-degree heat. Once we get with the hairstyle, the fire suit, and Segman sweat, there's no going to keep the ladies away.
The Segman is going to be in a motorhome, air conditioned, watching it on a flat screen.
Somehow you could have stopped after you said Segman's going to be in a motorhome. I think that would have painted the picture.
Ken, is this weekend the biggest sports weekend ever in the tri-state?
I would have to say, yeah. I don't think there's anything in second place. I mean, we're never going to get a Super Bowl. The World Series, I think is kind of far distant considering the way this team is playing lately. So I think, yeah, this has got to be it. But I think, Darryl, even more so for Kentucky, which is one of the smaller states in the Union, which is one of the more economically challenged states in the Union. I mean, we all know what the economy has done to states like Kentucky. This is huge. This is an influx of money that it would have taken, I don't know how many hundreds of new businesses to generate. So yeah, this is huge for Kentucky especially.
I was watching News 5 last night, and you guys had team coverage.
Sure.
And there was a lot of talk about the hotels being booked up for miles.
Yeah.
For miles in our region.
Yeah, I think if you're looking for a hotel room as far north as Erlanger or as far south as maybe Elizabethtown, Kentucky, you're in trouble. I would think even hotels like Gallatin, in Gallatin County, in Carrollton, Kentucky, there's a little Ramada Inn that's right off the interstate, right down by the Kentucky Speedway. I think it's like $39, $45 a night, and someone at the track told me they're charging over $300 a night, and you have to book a minimum 4 nights.
Wow.
So,
well, it's not only Cincinnati though, too. I mean, you figure, Louisville's not that far away. You also have Lexington too.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's it. I think if you look at this, the Kentucky Derby is huge, but I get the feeling that the majority of the people that go to the Kentucky Derby are from Kentucky. I think it's probably it's a huge event, but I think it's a regional event. They get people from outside the area, but basically I think it's a lot of people from Kentucky celebrating the state. These are people from outside of the area who don't normally come to the Commonwealth, who are going to spend an inordinate amount of money either on gasoline or food or lodging or whatever they might buy at the track. This is big stuff.
Well, a way to put this is, you had mentioned the Super Bowl, and we're never going to get a Super Bowl here.
No.
This is as far as people and money coming into town, the one thing that NASCAR does each weekend is they stage a Super Bowl.
Right.
And that's what this is.
Right, it is. And I think to compound it, this area has been denied so long an event like this that the ticket demand was so heavy for an event like this that the spectacle of this on television. Now, understand, a lot of these guys go to tracks and they'll race in front of 70,000, 80,000. NASCAR's down. It's not the glamour or the big crowd or the mega event that it was even 5 years ago. The economy they've taken a real big hit, that sport in particular. You're going to have 107,000 people in those stands, countless more inside the area camping. The spectacle of that on television, people are going to say, this is where? Mm-hmm. Kentucky? Well, where's that? It's near Cincinnati? Oh, okay. And all of a sudden you start thinking about things subconsciously about the area, and who knows how that translates into soft dollars for people that see something like this, hear about something like this, and maybe make a visit here for something completely different in 4 or 5 months. I mean, the fallout on this, I think, is going to be enormous.
Ken, when was the first time you were down at Sparta and you got a tour of the area?
Must have been 2000. It was right before they had that disastrous first race where I-71 was just, a giant parking lot. That was 2000, I think.
Yeah, I had an opportunity, and the old general manager of the track, a fellow named Mark Cassis, invited me down, and the stands weren't built yet. The ground was excavated.
Right.
They were just starting to put down the base level of asphalt around that is today the track.
Yep.
And being there at that time when it was all dirt, there was nothing there. And to see that after 10 years, 11 years, maybe a little bit more, that where that track has come, and really the dry period up until really last year, because there was a point where I'm sure you were being pessimistic about it. I know I was.
Sure.
Every year it came, we're going to see if we're on the schedule next year, and every year you're like, yeah, it's not going to happen. But it's fascinating with Jerry Carroll selling the track to Burton Smith. And now how fast things were turned around and the grandstands there were expanded. That is an incredible facility.
It is. And I'll tell you what, you mentioned the right guy there, Jerry Carroll. The world that we live in, the country that we live in, was built, frankly, on the backs of dreamers. And this guy's a dreamer.
Yeah.
He always has been. He's a developer. He's a guy that can see something that isn't there and envision it into something that will be there eventually. And if you look at what he did down there, if you look at the risk he and his partners took, because let's face it, they built that thing completely independent of NASCAR, a monopoly, although not judged as such, that could put a race anywhere it wanted to put. But yet they put it down there thinking, you know what, if we build it, they will come, and if we do it the right way, it'll be here, and it'll be a big deal. The only thing they didn't have was clout. They didn't have the dollars, and they didn't have the oomph of other racetracks behind them. Well, Bruton Smith did, and, they sold it, frankly, for pennies on the dollar to him, and all of a sudden, the clout met the vision, and that's what they have. Willie likes to say there are people in this world that make things happen, people in this world that wonder what happened. Jerry Carroll's a guy that made things happen. And if you're going to thank anybody for this today, I think you go back to the initial investment, the risk that he took in 1997 when they first broke ground on that thing.
It's interesting. This morning I was reading an article about the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and the Brickyard 400. And the Brickyard, now look, that track holds, 250,000 people?
Yeah,
That's what they admit to.
Sure.
You know, back in the glory days of the Indy 500, the word was that on race day about 400,000 people would be inside that track. And how they're having a difficult time selling tickets for the Brickyard 400. And I will attest to that, because last year I did go to the Brickyard 400 at the Speedway. And the place was maybe 60% full, and I was shocked at the amount of empty seats there. And what they're trying to do now is they're trying to add races like the Grand Am race and a couple other races for the weekend to try to attract people and drum up interest in this. But this weekend you have here not only the Sprint Cup race, but you already have the Nationwide, and you also have the truck race. So you're looking at that track this weekend, well over 200,000 people.
Easy. And I think the only thing that will dampen the experience for anyone, and that's the key, because 107,000, whatever the final number is that shows up, that's great for the first year. You want that because there's a lot of buzz and it's brand new. The only thing that'll dampen the experience, I think, and it's completely out of the track's control, is how you get into it and how you get out of it, because the roadways in and out are not good. I mean, let's face it. The interstate system that's in and out of there is under repair now. It seems like it's always under repair out there. And when you have two interstate lanes in, two interstate lanes out, it's going to be critical, I think. And I think these guys are up to it because they've done it before with nationwide races. But it's going to be critical for those controlling traffic in and out of there to make sure that the flow exists, that makes sure that people can get out and are not arriving back home on Tuesday afternoon. Because that's the only thing I think that could dampen the experience. That's as critical as anything that happens inside that track for return business. To your point, that's where people are going to get upset, and it's going to be driving home, because they're going to be there all day long, and the smart people and the people that want to take part in the event are going to be leaving early on Saturday. And if I was going to be going down there, man, I'd be leaving in the morning and planning on getting there early in the afternoon and just getting into the whole NASCAR event. But that race isn't going to be over until, 11? Yeah, I would say 10:30, 11 o'clock,
11 o'clock. There's going to be 107,000 people leaving there all at one time. You may be getting home about 3 in the morning.
Right. Yeah, and you've got to, I think veteran race fans accept that. I think they understand that. The bigger issue, once you're there, you got to leave. So, you're going to go home. I think the issue is getting there, because, again, for someone who has never been to one of those races, that has bought a ticket for something like this, you're right. I think if you're not on the road going down there by noon, you're going to be out of luck. It's going to be the world's largest parking lot from whatever that exit is back, probably all the way up to the split, the I-71, I-75 split. It's probably going to be that way for most of the mid to late afternoon. So, yeah, I think that's the key. Getting home, you're there, you're eventually going to get home, but the last thing you want to do is spend whatever you've spent for a ticket and then not make it there for the race.
Well, I guess you're happy you're going to be taking the Clear Channel helicopter in, right?
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, good. I thought it was a parachute drop, but that's fine. They outfitted me for a parachute.
Right.
Absolutely.
All right.
Hey, you know something? One other thing. There are 2 chairs in that studio, right? I always sit in the chair you sit in. I don't sit in the chair the other guys sit in that think it's the revered King's chair. I always sit in the chair that you sit in. I just want you to know that.
You do?
Yes.
See, I find this one more comfortable. The one chair that everyone else sits in, you know the story behind that.
Yes, I do. Well, I don't know if the listeners do, but I do, certainly.
Yeah, that's the chair from Mount Adams.
Yes.
Yeah.
And everybody thinks that's the great chair. And I said, well, what's this other one? I said, oh, that's Darryl's chair. I said, well, that's the one I'm sitting in, because that's the throne. All
right, you're scaring me, Ken, because you actually know what chair I sit in here in the studio. Hey, real quick, let's make a prediction. What place does Dale Earnhardt Jr. come in?
Well, actually, he's been more competitive lately than he has in the past.
Yeah, 19th was real good last weekend.
Yeah, I would say Dale Jr. in this race finishes 11th.
11th,
yeah.
All right. I'm going to go the other route. I'm going to say Dale Earnhardt Jr. comes in 37th.
37th, really? You really want to have Seg breaking a sweat in that fire suit, don't you?
Seg just drove off the interstate.
Well, there you go. There's the first casualty of the weekend.
All right. Ken Brewer, I appreciate it, buddy.
All right, DP.
We'll see you, man. Bye. Ken Brew from News 5 and giving us the unbiased viewpoint on the success or failure of Dale Earnhardt Jr. coming up in the Sprint Cup race coming up Saturday night at Sparta. It's going to be a hell of an event. 22 past 11 on the big one, 700 WL. X19 Storm Tracker forecast from meteorologist Frank Marzullo. Partly sunny today, muggy and humid. 91 is going to be the high. For tonight, thunderstorms and partly cloudy skies and a low of 70. Tomorrow, sun and some thunderstorms in the early evening tomorrow. A high of 88. And then for race day, you have to be prepared for this. And what do they always say? Hydrate. Because you're going to be out in the sun for a long, long time if you get there early to the Speedway. Sunny skies, hazy and hot. And the daytime high on Saturday is going to be around 90, and it's going to be a dry day for the race. So the race will start and will happen on Saturday night. We're at 83 at the big one, 700 WLW. Here is Steve in Boone County. Steve, 700 WLW.
Yeah, Darryl. The point that you were just making about the traffic being such a nightmare for 20 miles out from that track is the reason that the economic impact is not as great for that immediate area as what you think.
Immediate area. There's nothing there. There's a BP station. There's racers,
right,
and there's a convenience store next to racers. There's nothing there.
I'm saying the little grocery stores, the mom and pop grocery stores that are in that Sparta area, they actually close up when there's a race because their customers can't get there. Now you're going to have people staying in Florence in the motels and things like that. But most of your NASCAR fans, they come and they bring everything with them. They bring their own beer. They gas up, and, they're usually a tank of gas or two tanks of gas away from home. And so their food, I mean, if you go down there, they're eating out of the back of their car.
Oh, Steve, there's 107,000 people that are going to be sitting in the grandstands. You're talking about the people there that have started to arrive in motorhomes.
Right, but I'm talking about the fans also, because if you remember, there was a big controversy about the fans not being allowed to bring their own drinks there like they do at other NASCAR tracks.
Well, Steve, are you excited about the race?
Well,
Are you going?
No, I'm not going to go. I've worked in that area in the construction business, and I just know that, most of the people there who invested a lot of money in RV parks and stuff like that, they're really disappointed. And a lot of them have gone broke because the people.
Steve, you can't. Steve, you're such a pessimist. Come on, be happy. Come on, my brother, be happy. Well, this is the biggest sporting event ever in the tri-state. Come on.
Right. But let me tell you something. 2 weeks from now, go down there and visit all these people who have invested their money, and then have a show about what you heard.
Here's the thing, Steve. As far as all the people driving to the track in Sparta and getting caught in traffic, it's going to take a couple of races or two. Any stadium that is built, what happens the first event? People get mad about getting stuck in traffic. If you think back to the first Busch, it was Busch back then, right? Busch Cup race at the Kentucky Speedway. The week leading up to it, it rained. So you had all these people, 65,000 people going to the track. Many of the cars got stuck in the parking lot because of the mud, and these cars were being pulled out. So people were upset about that. They were upset about getting stuck in traffic. But in the years since, and the nationwide series races, people got accustomed to when to get there and how long it was going to take to get home. The same thing is going to happen this weekend. Steve, be positive. This is a really good thing. Believe me, a really good thing. And a lot of people are going to have a great time. 29 after 11, news time on the big one, 700 W. Hey, you can join the big one as we broadcast live from Kentucky Speedway. Special programming all day on Saturday. Ken Brew at 12:06. And Segman joins in at 3:06 with a special edition of the KOI Racing Report. And that until about 6:30 on Saturday night. The special Kentucky Speedway coverage brought to you by Likens Oil from the official partner of the Kentucky Speedway, 700 WLW. 700 WLW aviation expert Jay Ratliff joins us. And Jay, how are you, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing very well, Darryl, and hope your day's going as such.
It is. When you get up in the morning and you start sweating when you walk out in the driveway, those are mornings I love. I love it humid and hot.
You're a Southern guy, I understand, even though from your New York times,
Yep.
but spent a lot of time down south, and you come out of the shower sweating down there.
I gotcha. All right, so Jay, tell us a little bit about the latest threat from the terrorists. We have the government now saying that the terrorists are going to implant bombs inside their bodies.
Yeah, it's scary stuff. Well, we first heard, I guess, rumblings of this in January of this year. MI5 in London had uncovered some intel that basically said that the terrorists planned to attack Britain with bombs that were inside the bodies of terrorists as a way to foil, airport scanners to get past them. And when we saw this week the U.S. government basically step forward and kind of repeat that same sort of threat to the airline industry, it's very concerning because right now we have nothing in place at the airports that would detect someone that might have something surgically implanted into them that could be detonated once that aircraft is at altitude.
A bigger issue here, Jay, is if somebody is willing to go to that level, that you're going to go, you're going to put yourself under the knife to put a bomb inside you, and then you're going to get on an airplane and set it off. You just have fundamental psychic resolve to harm other people. And how do you stop that?
You can't. I mean, you can't. It's the same thing as, somebody has a rocket launcher at the end of a runway and they're going to try to shoot down an airplane. I mean, there's just no way for us to achieve 100% safety when it comes to commercial aviation. So we've got to do everything that we can to make things as safe as we can in the world in which we live. The scary part about this is, could they do it? Absolutely they could. I mean, to me, there's nothing different than strapping a bomb to yourself than surgically implanting it inside of you. I mean, these nuts will do it anyway, so, what's to prevent them from taking it to the next step? And it's something that would be somewhat easy to do and virtually impossible for us to detect, and that is one of the reasons why this is concerning. And I'm really trying to figure out why that we had kind of the re-announcement of it this week by the U.S. government, because they continue to say there's no imminent danger, there's no imminent threat. But there's got to be a reason that they decided again to address this, as they did 7 months ago when kind of the story first broke, as far as why now that they're mentioning it again. We're coming up on the 10-year anniversary of the attacks of 9/11. Are we worried about some things this summer? I don't know. But it's certainly a story that I think has a lot more involved in it than what we're being told.
Jay, why do we keep focusing? I understand if a plane gets blown up, a lot of people are killed. It's a spectacular. All right. Right. To your point of 9/11, it was a spectacular event that really affected us deeply in this country. It's the same. It's the same psyche when a plane crashes for mechanical reasons or a bad pilot. It gets a lot of play because a lot of people are killed, and it's a spectacular. Right. But why is it always? Why there are so many other things and that could be focused upon if you're a terrorist to really get within the American psyche, as opposed to blowing up a plane coming from Europe?
Well, it is, but the one thing that they recognize is that if you can disrupt commercial aviation, especially within the United States, as was done on those horrible day in September, it affects the U.S. economy because it brings to a halt, at least temporarily, that domestic airline network. And one of the dual-edged attacks that they wanted to use was to attack commercial aviation for loss of life. They would get the press coverage. There would certainly be a terror sensation to it, but it also would affect our ability to conduct commerce because of the fact that, there's a lot of people that travel for business, and It took us considerable months to recover from just the 3 or 4 days that the airline industry was shut down in 2001, and that's one of the reasons that they go after airlines as opposed to maybe bus terminals or, train facilities or things of this nature. It's always been a target that they recognize that there would be some long-lasting results from any successful attack that they would be able to conduct.
Let's talk about you and me. All right, we're flying, and we're going to go through security in Dayton. We're going to go through security at Indianapolis, Lexington, Louisville, CVG. What things will the TSA now do to try to detect people that may have a bomb surgically implanted inside themselves?
Well, they do have some things in place that they're basically, from an observation standpoint, that they're going to be looking for, and obviously a few of the things that I can discuss. One of them would be that if anyone is coming through there that appears as though they have, in some sort of pain, as though, some recent surgery, or they're walking in a certain way, that's certainly going to cause some attention as far as some extra screening that's going to take place, along with some questioning by the TSA individuals, because right now the only way that we can protect ourselves is to observe something from a non-technology standpoint, to try to catch someone that might be coming through an airport that might have something now surgically implanted in them that's designed to cause harm to the people that are traveling.
So the imaging machines, it doesn't seem like these will pick up on something inside someone's body.
Useless, absolutely useless.
No kidding.
Yeah, and we are at this. Yeah, because Darryl, there were concerns on, could somebody place something into, shall we say, a cavity within your body and try to smuggle something through those scanners as well. And the tests were less than 50-50 with regards to the success ratio there, because the machines were having a difficult time there. So the idea that if it's something surgically implanted, that's only going to increase the percentage of success there. So we are right now deploying these full-body imaging scanners that, at this point in time, if we maintain the current software that's being used, would not detect anything within the body that we would be able to identify as something that would be there for the sake of harm. Which means we're spending millions and millions and millions of dollars, putting these airports, and I'm glad we are, these machines at airports across the country, now to be, facing the realization that they may not prepare us for what may be the next threat on the horizon.
But Jay, you go through CVG and you go through the full body scanner now. All right, I have originated flights out of LaGuardia. They don't have it.
Right.
Our LaGuardia has these. They look antiquated, but I'm sure they do fine. These metal detectors that you walk through.
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Right?
Yeah, you think to yourself, well, if any place is going to have the top of the line technology, it's going to be in New York City, where 1/3 of all flights either originate, terminate, or transfer through.
Right.
And they don't.
They don't. Columbus, Ohio got things before some airports in Kennedy, and again, you're thinking, okay, why? I know that there's probably a very logical thought process behind it. I'm apparently too stupid to figure it out, because to me, I would rather see the busier airports and those where, they're not really worried about Tupelo, Mississippi, Evansville, Indiana, Columbus, Ohio. It's the New Yorks, the Washington, D.C.s, the Chicagos, the Atlantas. Those are the airports that, to me, should have been the first line of defense, especially being international gateways, as opposed to something like, Columbus, Ohio. And
but Jay, to your point, though, and we've talked about this. Once you're in the system, you're in the system, and once if you can get into the system in Tupelo or Peoria, Illinois, or wherever, you're in the system.
Exactly, and that's why we need to have the same level of security at every single airport across the country. But I agree with you that we should have started at some of these larger airports where there's considerably more flight activity, employing this technology, as opposed to some of the smaller airports that should have been, in my opinion, at the bottom of the list, certainly well down from, being in the top, 30 or 40 airports that receive some of this technology. But again, Darryl, right now, I mean, we can have those body imaging scanners at every airport across the country for every single passenger who flies, and it may not be protecting us as we need to. And this is certainly going to be something as we look more and more into what this possible threat could be with some of these surgically implanted bombs, but it's going to be something that's going to cause a lot of people a lot of grief and sleepless nights as we try to figure out from an intelligence standpoint, how we can identify this long before people get to the airport, and then hopefully, address the situation with the traveling public so that, try to determine the best way to go about it, because, if there was an uproar over these enhanced pat-downs, goodness gracious, what's next if they decide to, step up the security measures in light of this latest threat?
Well, there's always a reaction. The shoe bomber guy. I mean, now you have to take off your shoes at the airport.
Right.
There's always so what could it possibly be with the TSA if they're really fearing people that have bombs implanted inside their bodies?
Right.
Yeah.
And the idea is, how would somebody, detonate such a thing? Some of the intelligence reports showed hypodermic needles that would be used to puncture the skin to be able to ignite something. That may be something that they look at. Somebody could say they're a diabetic, they need the hypodermic needle, and they're able to get through the security checkpoint.
Yeah.
Cell phones might be used to detonate things. I mean, again, there are just so many avenues that this could take, and then trying to respond to what we would do from a security standpoint to try to protect, the millions of people who travel every single week without any problem whatsoever within the United States. It's a big, big problem, and it's really going to be something that, unfortunately, we're going to be talking about for some time as we try to see the best way to address, again, this latest threat.
Jay, travel safe this summer, my friend.
You too as well, and I'll keep an update. Anything changes on this, Darryl, I'll be sure to let you know.
We'll be expecting it. Jay Ratliff, 700 WLW aviation expert. Reports now, CNN is saying on July 13th, and ABC is also working on a report that Casey Anthony will be let free next Wednesday. We'll continue on 700 WL. All right, Casey Anthony was sentenced this morning on 4 counts of lying to the popo, lying to the cops, given 1 year for each count. Also fined $1,000 for each count. As far as the 1 year, those were to run consecutively. However, she is to be given credit for days served. She has been in jail for since October 14th of 2008, and she has served, good time included in this, she has served 1,043 days. So, AP is confirming now, as well as CNN, MSNBC, ABC, NBC, and every other news organization you can possibly think of, that she will be released next Wednesday on July 13th. A killer amongst us, a killer walking the streets, Casey Anthony, will be out on the streets. Now, preparations were made in the event that she was released today. The idea in Florida, in Orange County, Florida, Orlando, was to let her out probably in the middle of the night. Not only that, she was to be released in some other community. They don't want her in Orlando because they're afraid for her safety. That part of the story has not been revealed as of yet, but we'll certainly keep you up to date on that. Bill Cunningham is off today. Matt Patrick filling in, and he'll have a guest on regarding Casey Anthony coming up at 12:06. 700 WLW. Matt Patrick in for Bill Cunningham at 12:06. Elizabeth Kelly joins him. She's a defense attorney, also a legal analyst. You've probably seen her on CNN, HLN, and True TV, and also on Fox News, the Strategy Room, talking about Casey Anthony, who looks like she's going to be going free less than a week. 6 days from now, next Wednesday, she is set to be released for, she's been sentenced now 4 consecutive years as far as 1 year on each count of lying to the police. Incredible today in the court, where you have the defense attorney getting up there, making a plea that she lies so much that once she starts lying, It's all one lie. That's a caveat to their total defense. My client is a liar and a whore defense. Simply incredible. Reds winners in 13 last night, 9-8 against St. Louis. They take on Milwaukee. Coverage starts about 7:06 tonight with the inside pitch. Actually, the cover starts 6:06. Lance McAllister in Sports Talk on the home of the Cincinnati Reds, 700 WLW.